Rachmaninoff's Prelude number 6 in F minor. This is a complete contrast to what we've already had with the previous Prelude number 5 in G major. Out of nowhere comes this explosive F minor, stormy and driving, and changes and propels the action forward in this long cycle of the Opus 32 preludes. This piece, above all, is about athleticism, the tour de force of athleticism. Okay, so F minor. If you were going to hear that tonality and the F minor 5-finger pattern, how would you introduce that? Well, Rachmaninoff takes the very bottom F on the keyboard with both hands, and this is the opening introductory 5-finger pattern, ascending to announce the key. Those are the 5 notes. But he's already giving us a clue, and that is the pickup of this triplet. It's in 2/4 time. 1 and 2, da 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 da, da, and that 1 and 2, da 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 da, is going to be all the way through the piece, starting with the upbeat. These are all upbeats. This triplet you hear, the da 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 da, is the end of the second beat, and that's how the piece really begins, like this. And we have a crossed hand on the downbeat, the 1. So we have the pickup, the triplet, and then we have a spiral motive that comes down, and it happens again. And then we have a little melodic fragment that comes in. I'm going to play just the right hand. That's such a wonderful moment right there. So we have, slowly, what is he doing with this? With that 5th of the F and the C, those are the defining pitches of the tonic and the dominant. He's taking that spiral motive on either side of the C. He's taking the B natural, which is a raised 4th scale degree, so it creates an augmented. That's one of the most dissonant intervals. It's a tritone. And then he comes above the C with the D flat. And he's using that all the way through the piece. So, and then he takes the F tonic and comes a half step above that note, the G flat, and a half step below the F, the E natural. But how does he give us those pitches? He does it like this. I'll play the whole thing, and you'll see on the 3rd time of that spiral how that G flat gets introduced. Second time. Third time. That's amazing. It's kind of scary. And that's one of the elements too that he's using, are the leaps, the unexpected leaps above, springing out and springing down. That's what I mean about athleticism, these leaps. And the rhythm on this thing is constantly offbeat. Now, if we take slowly that pattern of the a tip for practicing and learning this is to block and get these in your hand, and then push up a little bit with that 2nd finger, and it'll work better. I find this thing just trembling with excitement. Now we go on to the second system with the same idea. We have the 3 crossed hand, F and A flat, which is our minor third, punctuating the tonality of F minor on the downbeat with the little upbeat pickup. Yada-da-da. So here's system 2 going on. Now this time we have this chord. A flat. And that's the end of the whole first section. And the end, the D flat, 6th scale degree, the C, our dominant, and F, our tonic. And that is how the whole first section ends in the left hand. And the right hand, that spiral motive all the way through. This is beautiful. I was talking the other day to my husband about this. What are the adjectives? How would you describe this? And I came up with a whole list of adjectives that we'll get into a little bit later in the piece. But be thinking about that. What's the character of this piece? What does it activate inside of you? What does this tritone make you feel? And then when he takes this in measure 5, he's doing something very unusual here. He's giving us an element of jazz. You know, he was ahead of his time. And if we take our F minor triad with the middle note of A flat, he's going to tie that note, coming from below and sliding. Very beautiful. And it gives that spooky sweep to it. This is not too real. This is trembling. Now I'm going to show you what I'm looking at. It's a great pleasure to show you this today. This is my page 1 working copy of a brand new engraving. I made this engraving. I made up the concept. I've been working with this concept for about 15 years. And finally now, because of the digital age, I'm able to do this with public domain music, to re-engrave every note of the piece that you would find with any other edition, but not looking like this at all on the 11-inch by 17-inch horizontal landscape. Now your copy comes black and white for your 3-page working copy, like this. I just think this is so beautiful. And I'm able to get long phrases. These are systems that I call System 2, System 3, System 4. Now going back to my working copy, I want to point out all of the elements that are introduced in this first 8-measure System 1. That's what's so remarkable about these engravings, among other things, is that I can get the complete thought all in one line without having to jump down to the next line. Nothing's interrupted. And I want to point out that there are 5 elements in the opening 8 measures. The first is the introductory 5-finger ascending pattern, which I put in a red box. And then comes the crossed hands downbeat of the F and the A flat, which happens here, here, and here. And on System 2, 3 more times, here, here, and here. The third element is this melodic fragment. The second time, it comes this way. And then up the octave. And then we have that element of the leaps. The first unexpected G flat, explosive leap. And then this one. Now you may say, but I don't want those colors. Well, you get them You get them when you get your whole chart package, which you get from my website, sallychristianmusic.com, as digital downloads. This beautiful satellite view. This is my favorite part of the entire chart package. And everything is marked for you here on our opening system. Those opening 16 measures. Rachmaninoff is giving us many, many ideas that are going to be developed in the piece. This also comes in the black and white version, so you can make your own marks if you want. But this color version, I think you'll find extremely helpful. And you can see that I've got the 5-finger pattern in the red box. These are the punctuation, crossed hands, the leaps, the inner melodic fragments, and the final cadence here. With the to close on the F, and the bass closes. So he's brought us completely to F minor to close the first big section. We'll come back to this. So now let's go on now to the beginning of measure 16. And again, this begins with the triplet upbeat. Now you might have heard in the left hand that it made a descending 4-note series of chromatic notes. E flat, D natural, D flat, and C. Then he repeats it again. Twice he does it. The middle notes, however, pay attention please to these, because the first time it sounds like, I'll take the top 2 notes, 4th, 3rd, 3rd, 5th. Repetition, 4th, major 3rd, minor 3rd, 3rd. So it changes at the very end. With the pedal point in the bass. Coming up. Do you feel the energy of this and the insistent quality of these rhythmic repetitions? This idea, you say to yourself, well, that sounds awfully familiar. And it is, because 20 years almost before that, in 1892, this is what he wrote from that famous first prelude in C sharp minor. That idea of the loop of the descending 4 chromatic tones was one of his signature motifs that he came back to in this piece. He does it the first time right here where we are in the piece, and I put this so below that first opening section. Now we're developmental, developing material, tonic, F pedal point in the bass, the descending chromatic chord outline, E flat, D natural, D flat, and C. And then the repetition of that. That's going to come again later in the piece, in the same dashed boxes here, with very much, in fact, identical to our ears. The chromatic outline is identical, but you're going to see something explosively wonderful, which I put in these yellow boxes that he's saving for the end. But that's one of the important developmental components of the piece, where we are right now. So we had at the top this right hand, the soprano, insistent on the C, the dominant C. Now he's climbing. Why is he doing that A flat so many times up there? Very high in the keyboard. And the bass, instead of starting here, the left hand and the bass is up here now. So the repetition of this A flat is happening here, measure 22. Something's coming This is winding up. This is again another 4 repetitions. The same idea of that spiral motive happening 4 times. And what's it spilling out? This. Oh my gosh. And did you know that this is just an amazing section here, these measures 24 and 25. If I take the thumbs of the left hand, I start with the A flat, then I go down a whole step to the G flat, and everything else is chromatic. And the next note would have to be that. But what he's doing is dropping the resolution down an octave. Fortissimo. And the right hand also has thumbs that are going with descending chromatic patterns. These half step, whole step, half step, half step, half step, half step, and now what is this? E and G sharp. Is it E major? Well, we have a B natural in the bass. It definitely is spelling E major. In fact, that is a second inversion of E major. So for 2 measures now, he's taking a surprise appearance of sharps. So how does he get here now? Let's go slowly. The previous 2 measures, measures 24 and 25, by taking our A flat, which was a type of pedal point in both hands, preceding now G sharp. It changes to the enharmonic spelling. A flat now becomes G sharp. So you say, well, why do I need to know that as a listener? You're not conscious that it goes to the sharps at this point. But as a performer and as a composer, how he wrote this, he's after something here. This is a change up. This is a change of psychologically going into the sharps and the everything reaching upward to the sharps instead of downward to the flats makes a difference. So here we are, measure 26. Again, 4 times on this E major second inversion. This is a joyful moment in the piece. Another loop. We had this loop. Now we have this loop. And what's coming? How does he do this? How can you go from up here down to here? That's what I mean about these leaps. It's splendid. And at that moment, he's going back to A flat. We only have 2 measures of the sharps. Let me show you my music here. Here was our first loop of all the A flats, 4 of them, in both hands. The top notes of each of these sextuplets were all A flat, A flat, A flat, A flat. 2 measures of descending parallel chromatic passages to the sudden surprise of the E tonality right here, this B natural, and the change up to the G sharp. And a loop of 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, surprise, down to the bass with this D. And the rhythm of how the piece started, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. He's doing here, and 1, and 2, and 2. And there's the same, and then another. Spectacular. Now what's going over all of that? And coming from this chord, 4 of them, remember? Well, you've heard that. He's back. That same spiral measure 28 here, the surprise. Listen to these complex groupings of the spiral motive. And then this group. So if I put everybody together now, this is the second system right here on page 2. You see the beauty of these charts. You get built-in practice suggestions. Go down to your music room. I say down because I'm on the lower level here. My studio is below the living quarters of the house. Practice just this line. Practice just this system. Practice just these. They're all built-in start points for you. Then you know, because I'll tell you, anytime, this is a kind of a mantra of mine that I've learned the hard way, anytime you leave the keys, you are at risk. That means you could jump to the wrong spot. Just think of an ice skater and they're winding up with all of their coiled spins to get momentum. That's what all of this spiral movement is here, momentum building. And they leap up into the air and they've got to land that after having done a few spirals on the blade, and they can't fall. That's very, very difficult. And all of the mess-ups we've seen in the Olympics happen at the landings of jumps. It's notorious. Well, the same thing happens with a piece like this. So you've got to know those jumps. You've got to know the names of them. You have to be able to start them out of context and play them with your eyes closed, not to miss them. So. It's an ostinato built on the spiral motive 12 times. Can you imagine doing that 12 times? What is he setting up? What's going over that? Well, this. Another A flat. What's he doing? Is he going to bring us back to F minor? This is. It's the same. Interesting, in a diminuendo. And that's how our page 2 ends. So beautiful here. Now we're at the top of page 3, and the bass has 6, 5, 1. The right hand has pretty much identical as our opening, except it's all in the right hand and there's one note that's different. That's a G on page 3, measure 40, instead of the F. It took me a while to get that in my fingers and know the difference. But basically, it's exactly the repetition of the opening measure 3. All in the right hand. If we put the hands together, again, on the upbeat, and 1, 2, and 1. It's faster this time. It's stretto. Instead of and 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1 like the beginning, it's and 1, 2, and 1, and 1. He's getting agitated, and you know what else he's doing here. I can't wait to get here with you. Let me play it a little slower here. This is the upbeat to measure 40. We make this sing. Okay, together. Now here we go. Moment in the piece. The soprano is starting with the D flat to C, C flat to B flat, A natural to A flat. Descending chromatic line, just like. And then he repeats it. What I'm looking at, all these beautiful colors here, is setting up a series of pairs here twice on your system 1 and your system 2. This is very, very complicated and complex. It's rich, it's turgid, it's dense. I hear screaming in here. Listen to these choices of chords he's using. This pickup right here, measure 40, 41, the pickup to measure 42, that's a diminished chord. That's an augmented. Next measure, diminished, augmented, diminished, minor. Second inversion of F minor. So we have the pattern, diminished, augmented, diminished, minor. Now if he continued here, he brings it up the octave. So let me play the whole thing. This is the right hand. Now you have to jump up to finish the pattern. The alto was so wonderful here. It's like sliding. It's again orchestral. What instrument would do that? You know, I have a project that I'm working on. I'm going to make a transcription of this piece for orchestra. I can't wait to do it because there are so many splendid combinations that the orchestra sounds that all the different instruments can get. And I think it's going to be splendid to hear this. I'm taking a little bit of a risk by saying this to you now. Once you speak something into the universe, there's acknowledgement happening. So we'll see if it happens. But anyway, the ideas are here for different instruments. So be thinking this way. What would he have used with his phenomenal knowledge as an orchestral composer and conductor to know what instruments would best serve these lines? With this alto. And then the spiral. So that's coming back. Left 10 here. And then the tenor line goes down. Everybody's tumbling down slowly together. Blend it, blur it. Look at the beats. And one. These converging lines, the tenor coming up and the alto down. Put those together. Isn't that great? That's in there. Also the bass is in here. Fifth. For sure. Hands together here. Pick up to 46. Measure 46. I'm going to play this whole passage now. This is difficult to play out of context when you're not warm, but I want to get the whole sweep of the chromatic line. So you hear that soprano line connecting this as two parts of one section. And here it is in your satellite view in the black box here. This is where we are in the piece right now. This was the ostinato motive happening 12 times and the appearance of the opening material in the red box. And then here we are with these three pairs of descending chromatic notes, and they're circled in pink. This is a unit. So let's see what that unit sounds like. Here we are at the conclusion of the piece with the same we have more interesting harmonies, more expanded harmonies in the left hand. This we have an augmented chord, diminished, and then this, believe it or not, is an inversion of A major, first inversion, and it's spelled with all sharps. And then it goes back to the C minor, and the repetition. And in my music here, this is coming up to just about the end of the piece, and where everything is the most explosive and has the most tension, the most power, the most expanded. It's tremendously exciting. And notice that this all is displaced. This starting right here with an open measure, this starts really on the second beat. 2, 1, 2, 1. Next phrase, 2, 1, 2, 1. Everything's displaced. Rarely do we get its beginning on the downbeat. So the pedal point in the bass, the F. Repetition. Hand is just splendid at that point. Slowly. Now this chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes. All 5 fingers have to play. And this would be an advantage to have a giant, strong hand like Rachmaninoff had. So for the smaller hands like mine, this is really difficult to do this. And land that A. It has an accent and it's forte. And it's a rolled chord. He wants it to shriek out. Then we have a flight to the finish with the cadenza here that goes up to the top of the keyboard and comes crashing down. So let me play that now. Isn't that exciting? And the repetition of ideas at the end here. This is 2 voices. The tenor is going. That's that same minor third, A flat to F, that he's outlining all over the piece. From the opening, he uses it again at the end. And the bass part is wonderful too. That's going. And you have to put those together. It's not easy. Over that is again another 4 loops of this. Of the spiral motive. You put that together. And then our final red box with a surprise. It's the sharps again. That's an F sharp minor tonality. What's he doing? He's going against, with a half step, against the F minor. Strong downbeat. F's in both hands, octaves. Okay, isn't that an amazing piece? And here, looking at the last view of the satellite view, which you will, I know, very much appreciate as you learn the piece in the sections that it is. This is a wonderful moment here, but you can see I also wanted to point out that I wrote beats in here of the cycles, 1, 2, 3, 4, loops rather, of the 4 times this happened, and this one, bass notes, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and the third one, 3, right here. This is just a powerful, powerful piece. So I told you I'd read some of those words that I came up with. So I was asking my husband, because he's been with me on this musical journey. We've been married almost 28 years. And we've done this music together. It's been a phenomenal life that we've had together. So I rely a lot on his feedback. He knows these pieces. He's heard me play them for years and has a personal relationship and a depth of perspective that nobody else on the planet has for me. So I asked him, what do you think of when you hear this piece? What does it activate for you with how would you describe it? And I came up with these words: murky, sinister, savage, menacing, scary, turgid, frenetic, possessed, relentless, driving energy. And he said, I just think it's exciting. I just thought that was so wonderful. He said, all of that's true. He said, but what happens for me when I listen to this piece, it's so exciting. Just the physicality of it and the virtuosity of it. And so I'm leaving you with these ideas, whether you're a listener or performer of the piece. I think it's a little bit of everything. I often get asked, how do you think Rachmaninoff wrote? You know, he wrote all of these 13 preludes in one summer, in between concertizing. That was the only time he could compose. He was 38 at this point when he wrote these. He was touring so much. Composition was really relegated to the summers. And he wrote this entire Opus 32, 13 preludes, magnificent cycle, in one summer. How do you do that? It's like Mozart composing. Well, you do it, I think, with music coming through you and to you. It comes through you, it speaks to you, it taps you on the shoulder and says, we're going to do this now, are you ready? That's what I think real authentic composing on a master level is. It comes to you. You can craft it, which he did, of course, you're always crafting, but the impetus came from another realm. I really believe this. And just really such awe that he wrote this cycle in such a short period of time. And can you imagine these thoughts screaming through his brain and the pen barely being able to keep up and write down all of these thousands of notes to get this piece? Really extraordinary. We have a few bright, bright stars that visit us and leave this for humanity. And Rachmaninoff was so clearly one of the giants. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I have loved sharing it with you. And please join me for number 7, which will be coming up next. Thank you very much.